God teaches us within this word that with time, we learn how to abide in the lives that God has given us. Now, I'm not here to say that God has made up plans for you to be harmed by your spouse, for you to be cheated on, and for your pride to be diminished and your integrity to be gone, and for your children to suffer. I'm not saying that at all. But what I am saying is that within the story of God, any story of God, whenever we hold on to God, there is an upside to everything. And what you need to ask yourself is it more than what you can bear? A lot of us consider it is because we start to consider and compare our marriages to other people's marriages, but we never realize what's going on behind closed doors. Yes, there's people who act and smile and act as though they're happy, but they're really not. There's people who are wearing makeup not because they need it in terms of beauty, but because they're covering up the violence that's going on in their homes. What we learn in this word is that the children of Israel are going to be forgiven of their adultery. And the reason why they're going to be forgiven of their adultery is because they were given over to a spirit of whoredom. So what God teaches us is no longer the man thinking, the woman thinking, right? The mind, the thought is gone from them. They're no longer making their own decisions. Now they've been given over to a spirit that drives them. And when you're given over to a spirit, you're no longer in control. Which is why we heard about in other topics I've read or I've done, where when you're given over to a spirit, it's not you who's making decisions. That's why when you have been given the liberty in which God has given you, don't use it as a cloak of maliciousness. But abide in it, grow by it. Increase in wisdom, knowledge, and understanding, that you could know that God is able to do exceedingly and abundantly and above all that you could ever ask or think. The devil, the events, the heartache, the pain, all of these emotions and senses are overwhelming, and they make us forget about the oath that God has said cannot be broken. You could be walking down the street and hear about someone saying about your marriage, oh, you must be so-and-so's wife, so-and-so's husband. You may have been remarried already, but you're still connected to them. Don't continue to make mistakes. There's many people who have gotten remarried 2, 3, 4, 5 times and even greater, and they still haven't found that peace. They still haven't found that marriage. But I would tell you, the people who do find peace, and then listen carefully to what I'm saying, the people who do, they learn how to hold their peace within a marriage. And not to say that it's of God, but to say that they've learned a lesson. But a lesson that they should have learned and applied to their first marriage. We give up too easy. And when we give up, we're teaching our children to give up. We're teaching our children to give in. We're teaching our children to forget the oaths in which they have made. And although you may not see it as a big thing now, if they forget their oath of marriage, what other oaths will they forget? Maybe the oath of serving God for the rest of their lives, that whatever it takes, that they'll hold on to his unchanging hand. You don't want that. I know you don't. And I know that it's a season where you felt absolutely weakened by the hand of your spouse, and you felt as though you had to regain strength. But God says in his word, I am your strength. I am your deliverer. And so you don't need to find another strength, or you'll be just like the Israelites in adultery, looking to other gods, looking for another strength, looking for another deliverer. God controls the hearts. God controls the minds, but it's up to you to control your path and your future. Because if you give up on God, he could turn his back on you and give you over to the same spirit of whoredom that made you divorce your spouse. You're now in. And how could I say such a thing? Because now you have to go and date. Now you have to go and find a relationship because you need a man or you need a woman. But before, you were in a better situation because you are now looking at their faults and able to judge their faults and able to save them from their faults and able to encourage them. And what I'm speaking about is when Hosea got married to that adulteress, he said, you will no longer be a whore, but you shall abide in the house and you shall be my wife and I will be your husband and I will not commit whoredom and you will not commit whoredom. He planted a seed in her that was not planted by anyone she knew before. He planted a seed in her that she did not understand was going to impact her life so greatly. Because this was no longer a word that was given in order to seduce her. This was a word that was given to increase her, to exalt her, to esteem her, to allow her to be a woman of God. Sometimes people don't know any better. They've been raised in a broken house and they've been taught to do these type of things like adultery and fornication. But continue to pray for your spouse because it's only for a season. I hope when they finally do come back to you, because they will, and I know a lot of you are saying, well, we could just be friends. You're leaning to your own understanding. They need you. And this is your opportunity not only to regain the strength that you felt you lost, but this is time now for you to regain the oath and which was instilled from the very beginning. This is your opportunity to build a sure house, a good foundation, one that cannot waver nor be shaken. This is time for you to build yourself. God bless.